President Trump made it very clear. If they will try to restore powers that threaten the whole region, they will have an issue with America, not only with Israel. So I believe President Trump has a record that his words should be carefully taken into consideration in Tehran.
Foreign Minister, it's great to see you again. Thank you so much for the interview. We got a lot to cover, the Trump-Netanyahu summit, what they talked about and where we're heading on Iran, on Gaza, on Hezbollah and Lebanon. But we have to start with the biggest news. You just were in Somaliland this week. Why did Israel decide to become the first country in the world to recognize the independence and the international legitimacy of Somaliland in the Horn of Africa? And you were just there.
Sometimes you need to be first. When anyone else is not doing the right thing, you need to do that. And after I've learned, and we've learned, the history of Somaliland, which is already more than 34 years, a functional, moderate democracy in a very important position. But the most important thing is we didn't create Somaliland. Somaliland was created more than 34 years ago. As a matter of fact, when the British colonial rule was over, they gained their independence, and 35 states, including the US and the UK, recognized Somaliland in 1960. Afterwards, they decided to unite with Somalia, but after a while decided to quit. After a huge massacre that was done against them. So it is the just thing to do, and it is the right thing to do. So we did it. Whether it would be more convenient to be the second or the third or the fourth.
No, I agree. It's good to be first. And I think most Americans, especially American Christians, may not realize or remember that Somalia was the site of Black Hawk Down, radical Islamism. You've got Iran there. You've got all kinds of terror groups. You've got Russia. You've got China. This actually is...
You got Ilhan Omar.
Okay.
But let me tell you that Somaliland, for example, just a few days ago, supported what America did in Venezuela. How many African countries had done that?
How many Middle Eastern countries?
Stating clearly their support. It's a pro-Western, friendly with Israel, moderate Muslim country. Why shouldn't we be in touch with them? No one can decide for us who to recognize and who to have diplomatic ties. We saw so many countries in the world recognize the virtual state of Palestine. It's not an existing state.
Which is a basket case. Even if a person supported it, a Palestinian state, it's a basket case. It's filled with terrorism and corruption.
But there's no such a state.
Right.
In comparison, you have a state named Somaliland controlling, and if you look at the Phoenicians, according to the international law, they deserve to be recognized as a state. So I hope that many countries will follow suit, and I think it's the right thing to do, the just thing to do, but also wise thing to do, because around this place you have a lot of radical trends. So you need to strengthen those who are really moderate, peace-seeking people.
Yeah, especially this is right across the waterway from Yemen, which has been firing ballistic missiles at us. Well, my only criticism, because I totally agree with the decision, is you didn't take us with you. But next time,
I couldn't. The security agency was very tough with us.
Fair enough.
And they were like, we did all that discreetly because we had a very tough restrictions. But okay.
I'm mostly kidding.
I believe it's not the last time I will be.
Good. I appreciate it. Let's also talk about, you just mentioned Venezuela, the stunning and supremely successful decision by President Trump to capture and arrest the madman Nicolas Maduro, a narco-terrorist. Israel immediately came out in support of that decision. Why? And what was Iran and Hezbollah doing in terms of building an alliance on the ground in Venezuela?
First of all, Maduro is not the legitimate president.
Right.
He lost the last elections. The fact that he's a tyrant or a dictator, he's not the legitimate ruler of Venezuela. From an American point of view, the narco thing was very essential, but
The
also
amount of drugs moving into the United States on purpose.
Yeah, we know that Maduro and Venezuela under Maduro and previously under Chavez was the gate for Iran and Hezbollah to enter to South America. And from there to send their arms like an octopus, and they had a lot of also, first of all, military cooperation, and secondly, also they helped each other to bypass international sanctions. So you have all the good reasons to support that. As a matter of fact, if it wasn't, it happened during Saturday, and I had to wait it until Saturday will be out in order to publish our support, but I did it at the same minute because I strongly support that.
Your background is originally your family coming from Argentina.
My father, yeah.
Yeah, your father. So you really understand the strategic dimension of what's going on in South America.
And I commend Trump administration for his strategy for Western Hemisphere. And you already see the results. In Honduras, the right wing won. In Chile, the right wing won. In Bolivia, which was also a pro-Iranian, anti-American country, the right wing won. In Argentina, President Milei had a great victory in the parliamentarian elections. I hope it will continue, but I think there is a huge shift in South America. When I was a month ago in Washington, D.C., I spoke with Secretary Rubio about that, and we must work together to strengthen, for example, a state like Bolivia, which, they came to power and didn't found nothing there because they just robbed the country. So it is very important to help these countries that going to the right path, meeting their challenges.
I think it's fascinating that in the United States, the Secretary of State is from a Cuban background, and Marco Rubio and I know each other. He's actually read several of my books, but I like him in spite of that anyway, and I appreciate that. But he really understands Central and South America. You're from this background on your father's side as Foreign Minister of Israel. I think that's really interesting. All right, let's deal with...
I believe Secretary Rubio really understands Latin America, but he also understands the full geopolitical picture in the world. He's a great friend of Israel and a great Secretary of State.
Israel and Iran have stopped their missile war, but a spiritual battle is still taking place. Today, nearly 99% of Israelis don't yet know Jesus. Think about that. Nearly 99% of Israelis don't yet know Jesus, but a miracle is unfolding. One for Israel is a ministry that shares the gospel. And I can tell you, Jewish people are starting to accept Jesus in numbers not seen since the early church. Many Arabs are also finding faith and unity. One for Israel is an initiative of native-born Israelis sharing the gospel, discipling believers, and equipping spiritual leaders across Israel. As Romans 10:1 expresses, my heart's desire and prayer to God for Israel is that they may be saved. Your support helps bring the gospel back to Israel. I want you to do something right now. Pick up the phone and call 800-892-9065. That's 800-892-9065 to help share the gospel in Israel. Visit oneforisrael.org/partner or scan the QR code. It's interesting, there's all kinds of news stories, Barak Ravid and others in early December. Oh, there's tremendous tension between Trump and his inner circle and Prime Minister Netanyahu. And yet Netanyahu gets invited for his 6th private meeting with the president to his Trump's personal home, including on New Year's Eve. So let's set aside the fake news. Let's deal with the real news. Iran was the central topic. They certainly talked about a lot of things, but where are we? Does President Trump and do Prime Minister Netanyahu now, do they assess the intelligence the same way that Iran is trying to reconstitute its nuclear weapons program and maybe even more aggressively its ballistic missile production to try to overwhelm Israeli missile defenses with hundreds or thousands of missiles at the same time? Do they see Iran the same way at the moment?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. First of all, President Trump is a great leader of the free world, and he demonstrated that also last June while attacking Iran nuclear facility. That was an extraordinary leadership that demonstrated American decisiveness to prevent Iran from being nuclear. And as a matter of fact, I think this is one of the reasons they had not returned yet to enrich uranium since June. They do restore or started to restore the ballistic missiles plan. And this is also a thing for a worry. But I think President Trump made it very clear. If they will try to restore powers that threaten the whole region, they will have an issue with America, not only with Israel. So I believe President Trump has a record that his words should be carefully taken into consideration in Tehran.
Well, he gave Iran 60 days. They didn't negotiate in good faith. They didn't make a deal. And it seems like on day 61, Trump called the prime minister and said, "Baby, go do what you gotta do." And then he came through and stood with Israel. And now with Nicolas Maduro, he told him, stand down, otherwise you're gonna face judgment. So the president's standing globally, and particularly in the Middle East, I think is very, very high. I guess the question is, the president said that if Iran moves back into an offensive posture, there will be all hell to pay, that the next attack could be larger than last June. Are we looking at the possibility of massive Israeli-American strikes again inside Iran in 2026?
Well, I don't think that after the clear words of President Trump, I need to deliver some new threats.
Okay.
Things were clear. Iran cannot be nuclear, and Iran cannot again try to develop existential threats for the state of Israel while they are openly speaking about their intention to eliminate the state of Israel. I mean, they are not hiding that.
Right.
So we will watch things very closely. We also see the people of Iran today is on the news, and frankly, we wish them much success. We support their struggle for freedom. We think they deserve freedom. We think they deserve a better future. We don't have any hostility with the people of Iran. We have a huge problem, which is not only our problem, it's a regional and international problem with the Iranian regime, which is the #1 exporter of terrorism, radicalism. Everywhere they are working against the stability in the region, beyond the region. We've just heard what the Americans had described about their deeds in Venezuela. It's a really vicious regime.
Let's talk about then Lebanon and Hezbollah. Hezbollah, a wholly owned subsidiary of the Iranian regime. There's a lot of rumors going on here that Hezbollah is trying to get up off the mat, that they're trying to rise again. Do Trump and Netanyahu see the same way, that there may need to be more aggressive action against Hezbollah in Lebanon in 26?
I think they are on the same page also on Lebanon. And it is very clear, the government of Lebanon took the decision to disarm Hezbollah. They must implement. We appreciate the decision itself. We acknowledge some efforts that were done, but surely not enough. Very, very partial. And at the same time, Iran already sent $1 billion to Hezbollah, and Hezbollah, as a matter of fact, more rearming than being disarmed.
Yeah, that concerns me.
So eventually they must be disarmed. It's the security of Israel, but not only the security of Israel on stake, also the future of Lebanon. Lebanon will not be independent until Hezbollah will be dismantled. They cannot be under Iranian occupation, even an indirect occupation.
I think of 4 decades of PLO domination, Syrian domination, Iranian domination. Do you think that if the Lebanese government, finds its strength with American help and other international help and can cast off Iran and Hezbollah, can you see a scenario that Lebanon would want to make a peace treaty, join the Abraham Accords with Israel?
I think so.
Do you?
Yeah, because we can very easily reach a peace agreement with Lebanon. What are our disputes with Lebanon? We have some minor arguments about the borderline, very minor. The problem is Hezbollah. The thing that stands between, this is how I see it, normalization of Israel and Lebanon is Hezbollah. Yeah. And they're being so strong militarily inside Lebanon.
I hope we see a turning point in 26. One more question. I really appreciate it. Gaza. Obviously, that was a huge issue for Trump and Netanyahu to discuss. I'm a little concerned that President Trump, who I trust on a lot of issues, but he seems very supportive, open, let's say, to the possibility of Turkish military forces in Gaza. Did Prime Minister Netanyahu come to some sort of a understanding or agreement with President Trump on this issue?
I would say he definitely, on Turkey, they don't they don't share the same positions. Okay. It is clear, it is evident. Yeah. But President Trump also made it clear that for Turkey to be in Gaza Strip, they will need an Israeli consent. And we will not agree that Turkey...
That would put us in a direct conflict with Erdogan, who says Jerusalem is his, that he wants to invade our country, and would put us in conflict with NATO, right, if God forbid.
100%, and it won't happen because we will not agree. We will not agree that to happen. We found out on October 7, and maybe before that we have a border with Iran. In the north, Hezbollah, in the south, Hamas. We don't seek for a border with Turkey.
Amen. Amidst a very full schedule of meetings with Jewish leaders and with senior administration officials in the Trump administration, including President Donald Trump, Secretary of State Rubio, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, and others, why exactly did Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu carve out time, very valuable time, during that week to meet with evangelical Christian leaders in Palm Beach, Florida? Well, he had 3 reasons, as I reported on All Israel News. First, Netanyahu wanted to demonstrate genuine gratitude to the evangelical Christian community. Netanyahu knows that evangelical Christians, 60 million in the United States, 600 million worldwide, are far and away the best friends that Israel and the Jewish people have, especially in a world of exploding anti-Semitism and hatred of the Jewish people and the Jewish state. Therefore, Netanyahu wanted to demonstrate his deep appreciation and his deep gratitude for the tens of millions of evangelical Christians who read the Bible, love the Bible, and actually believe the Bible from Genesis through Revelation. Second, Netanyahu wanted to counter the avalanche of lies that are descending upon Israel and the Jewish people on the American left and particularly on the American right. Netanyahu sees Judeo-Christian civilization under direct and vicious and relentless attack. This is, he believes, a clear and present danger to the lives and well-beings, not just of Jews, but of Christians as well. The situation is bad and it's getting worse, he believes. In 2025, for example, Tucker Carlson Candace Owens, Steve Bannon, Nick Fuentes, and others took direct aim at Christians who love Israel, right? They're trying actively to blow up the massive movement and coalition of Christian Zionists who love Israel and believe God has a plan for Israel with malicious lies, slurs, and innuendo. Candace Owens says Israel is a demonic country. Her quote, not mine. Tucker Carlson says Christian Zionism is heresy and that Christian Zionists have a brain virus. All of them have expressed their hatred for evangelical Christians that are either in or close to the Trump administration. Christians like Mike Huckabee, like Lindsey Graham, like Ted Cruz and others who support an even stronger U.S.-Israel alliance. Again, folks like Huckabee, Cruz, Lindsey Graham, who are working, among many, many others, to try to figure out how can we work together to advance American interests that also happen to strengthen our number one ally here in the Middle East, Israel. So Netanyahu wanted to meet with evangelical leaders to brief them on the latest developments, answer their questions, and help them counter the avalanche of lies with the facts. Third, Netanyahu wanted to discuss with evangelical leaders how best to strengthen and expand the Christian Zionist movement amidst this vicious onslaught to destroy Judeo-Christian civilization. Netanyahu knows that young evangelicals in particular are turning against Israel, and he's very concerned, and he's right to be concerned. That's why this group not only included pastors, evangelical pastors, and the heads of Christian nonprofit groups and ministries, it also included the heads of several Christian universities. For example, Dr. Jonathan Falwell, the president of Liberty University, was there. Liberty University is the largest evangelical university in the world. And so it was very important. So I want to show you now remarks that Netanyahu made to this group so you know exactly what he's talking about, what his concerns were, and you hear it in his own voice.
You are representatives of the Christian Zionists who made Jewish Zionism possible. It's hard for me to conceive the emergence of the Jewish state, the reemergence of the Jewish state, without the support of Christian Zionists in the United States, also in Britain, but the main thrust was in the United States in the 19th century. So Christian Zionism facilitated the rise and success of Jewish Zionism. And it's been an enormous partnership since then. You have stood by us through thick and thin, and now we're challenged by new challenges, but equally with new opportunities. We've fought, as you know, a seven-front war, and we've come out in many ways victorious, but there's an eighth front, and that's the front for the hearts and minds of people, especially young people in the West, and for me, especially in the United States, and for me, especially on the conservative wing of the United States. I think it's our common Judeo-Christian civilizational battle, and I think we have to engage in that battle as forcefully, with as much resolution as we engage the other seven fronts. I think it affects not only Israel, it affects America, it affects our alliance, it affects the future of Western civilization. And we are conscious of the fact that Christians are being persecuted across the Middle East, in Syria, in Lebanon, in Nigeria, in Turkey, and beyond. And we're also aware of the fact, as you are, that one country protects the Christian community, enables it to grow, defends it, and makes sure that it thrives. And that country is Israel. There is no other. None. We are joining an effort to have basically a united nations of countries that support Christian communities around the world, beleaguered communities who deserve our help. Just as you are helping us, we want to help